A wise man once told me that the loudest person in the room is usually the brokest. But if we learned anything from Nate Robinson last month and Conor McGregor on Saturday, usually the loudest person in the room is just the one that can't fight. Here on SOS Discussion, we got our boy Darian, my boy Jamar, and we even got Anthony from the My Point Exactly side. So Darian, what's next for Conor McGregor?
First off, he better not hear what you had to say. Cause that was extremely disrespectful.
Wow.
That man, extreme. You just violated that man.
Wow.
But no, it was a great intro. Great intro, my brother. But no, man, when I look at Conor McGregor, I think it's time for the UFC to put their pockets aside and do what I think is the correct move and push him down the line a little bit. Not at the back. He's obviously still one of the top contenders in the division. But I think it's time for him to take a step back. When I look at the top of that division, you got Charles Oliveira, you got Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier is going to fight for the belt because I don't think Khabib is coming back. I think Dana White is trying to do everything he can to convince Khabib to come back, but I genuinely think that Khabib gave his mother his word, and I don't think he's coming back. So you got Oliveira, you got Justin Gaethje, who lost to Khabib. You have Dustin Poirier, and you have Michael Chandler, who exploded on the scene in the co-main event. If you ask me, I'm dividing those four up. I'm probably doing Poirier versus Oliveira because Oliveira on an 8-fight win streak, and I'm probably gonna take Gaethje versus Michael Chandler and let that be a number one contender matchup. As far as Conor, you got to move down, and I look at three people, and I'm gonna pass it to my colleagues after this. There's three people that I could honestly see him fighting. I say Max Holloway because if you go up 10 pounds, he's lost twice to the champ right now, and he might not get another shot. So there are two people who Conor are in limbo. Then you look at Nate Diaz. The third fight of that trilogy could be an interesting, not just matchup, but also an interesting money move for the company. Because at the end of the day, UFC is a business. They're going to do that. And if he wants to stay in his own division, I could see somebody who has also had a pretty devastating loss, although he's had 2 in a row. And that's Tony Ferguson, who I think is right below them. And I could see him versus Tony Ferguson maybe as a bounce back match with the winner of that moving back up. But right now, Conor, you've lost 2 out of your last 3. You've been pretty inactive. And we can get into the reasoning why, but this is personally what I think is next for Conor McGregor. Either a step back in that same division or maybe moving up and wait to fight somebody else.
When I look at Conor McGregor, and not even just the UFC landscape, I'm looking at the fighting landscape. And I look at Conor McGregor, I think the best move for him, if I was Conor McGregor, was to fight Poirier again for the money. I think one thing in the UFC is that people fail to not ignore is the money isn't all the way there. You look at these fights, these fighters are not making enough money for taking the type of beating they're making. You know, these fighters are fighting for pennies for basically in a brawl matchup. So I look at their matchup and I look, the money's still there for another fight, a trilogy. The two have both won, and it's 1-1, so both of them would fight again with each other. And the other option for Conor McGregor is to leave UFC and to box for the money again in the ring. Because I believe when you look at the landscape of the fighting landscape, you can fight these YouTubers, you can fight these anybody's with a name and make your money. And I'm looking at fighters these days, and especially UFC. I've never been the biggest on UFC because it's so brutal. And at any moment, obviously, with the way they fight in UFC, your career could be over. So if I was Conor McGregor, I get my bag because I know I can go back and fight a Manny Pacquiao. I could fight anybody just because I'm Conor McGregor. I'm going back to boxing, and I'm seeing if Floyd want to fight again. I'm seeing if Pacquiao want to fight. I'm seeing if Jake Paul want to fight me right now because I understand that's where the money is. You go back and fight in the UFC, you've already shown, bro, that you're not even that serious, in my opinion. So you go back. I don't think Conor McGregor has the interest of moving down and fighting the lower level, non-star level fights. So I say either you fight for the trilogy or you go back and you fight for the YouTube pay-per-view.
All right. Now, this is something that, because I'm a little bit bigger on UFC than you are, Jamar, this is something that it happens to UFC fighters as they get older and as they get more famous. It's a lot harder to go in there and get punched and kicked in the face after you've made a couple $100 million. And not all fighters have made that amount of money. Conor McGregor has an entire country behind him. So financially, he's not in no type of way hurting. Notoriety, fame, he'll be a legend forever when he goes home. So for me, it's going to sound bad. Conor McGregor needs to give it up. This is the fight for me that was I feel like this was Conor McGregor's test to see if I'm still a real contender or if this is something that I'm just going to be doing for the money. Now you're going to be seeing Conor McGregor taking lower fights where he knows he's going to get paid good. He knows he's probably going to either be able to beat the guy up, or he's not going to be in a situation where he's going to be damaged, and he's just going to take fights for the money now. He knows he knows the person's going to be there every time because his name's Conor McGregor. If you notice, after Mayweather, the hunger that was in Conor McGregor has started to dissipate. And the reason that hunger dissipates because on $100 million, you eating good. It's hard to be hungry. And this is a fight sport. In UFC, just like boxing, you have to bring yourself to a mental place to get in that octagon every single time. And as you can see right now, Poirier is looking to be the best fighter. You know what I mean? Poirier is looking to be the champion. Poirier is ready to get his #1 contender status on. Poirier is ready. So, go ahead.
I'll ask this question though, because this is my opinion. Do you think Poirier wants McGregor the trilogy, or does he want to step up and fight these higher level fighters? Because in my opinion, I think Poirier wants a trilogy for the bag, because he understands even if it's for a title, he's not going to get paid the same amount with another Conor McGregor fight.
He's gonna get, if this is just me, and if from the way he just beat McGregor up, and from the way he commented on after beating McGregor, Poirier is looking for the belt first. The money's coming second in his mind. Now that's not everybody, and that's why those fighters aren't as good as other fighters, because he's not worried about right now. Poirier does not have purse, does not have future, does not have finances on his mind. He has glory, he has legacy, he has beating the next opponent, he's the #1 contender, he's ready to be the champion. So that's where he's at. And Khabib's not coming back. I mean, he's gonna keep that promise, which means that it's about that time for somebody to take that step up and control that weight class again anyway. So Poirier's looking for that. Meanwhile, McGregor's on a completely different career path at this point. That's what you've never heard McGregor start to talking these ways after fights. Why? Because for him, the arrogance and stuff, he doesn't need it to brand himself anymore. We know who Conor is. We know what we're gonna see. We know what we're gonna enjoy. And even though he lost, we're more talking about McGregor losing than Poirier winning. And Poirier won the fight. This was not like McGregor choked or it was a slip and fall or anything like that. Poirier straight. That's how you take somebody out. That's an amazing TKO in the second round. You see what I'm saying? Poirier he out McGregor, especially in boxing, because McGregor's one of the better boxers in UFC history and got outboxed. So that should have let McGregor know, and I think it did let him know. I don't really got it no more. Not necessarily I don't have it no more to be a fighter in general. I don't have it no more to be one of those top fighters. And do you really think that he'd be able to really just, because this McGregor we talking about, this is the Conor McGregor, the most arrogant man in UFC history. Do you really think he's going to feel comfortable taking back seats and just fighting people for money? I think he's going to hang it up.
I'll say this. I actually disagree with both of you guys. If Conor McGregor were to leave the UFC today, I would be utterly disappointed, and I would look at him the same way that I looked at Ronda Rousey. That would tell me that he did not have love.
No way!
Wait a second. Because at the end of the day, Ronda Rousey, when the going got tough and she lost 2 fights in a row, she dipped out. If Conor McGregor were to leave after losing this fight again, and after losing in the fashion that he has, when I know he still has love for it, I don't buy the whole he does not have love for it. I don't buy the whole he hasn't been active. I just do not think it's fair. And I'm going to answer both of you guys. I'm going to start off with Jamar because it's the quicker one to say. I don't want to see the trilogy because it just happened. The second one just happened. It was decisive. I don't think an immediate run back when there's qualified contenders in that division is the right way to go. And Conor's already said he wants that fight, but he wants it for the title. Conor, you just got knocked out in the second round. You have a guy who knocked somebody out in the first round who fought before you. And you have Charles Oliveira, who's been on an 8-fight win streak and absolutely dismantled Tony Ferguson, also in that division. I'm not giving Conor McGregor a fight for the belt. Also, I'm not so sure it's so much about him not loving the fight, because I look at it and you say he's not hungry. Well, I look at the way he came out in the first round of his last 2 fights. He came out and absolutely demolished Donald Cerrone, not on the same level. I'm very clear on that. But he absolutely demolished Donald Cerrone. He looked hungry then. He round and all the judges All the judges said he won that first round. He was on his game. He looked like he was ready to fight then. He was pressuring. He was doing everything. But then when you look at those leg kicks from Dustin, that's when it started wearing on. I don't think that's saying he's not into it. I don't think it's saying he doesn't want it. I think those are kind of cheap escapes for him to use. And at the end of the day, he just got beat by a man who was better than him, had a plan. You listen to his SBG Ireland coach. They talked about how they could not, this is from his coach, they knew their leg kicks was coming, but you look at the toll that it took on Conor McGregor, and it was something that they could not prepare for. And it's the reason that Conor McGregor was walking with a crutch after the fight, because he was getting dismantled and he could not do what he wanted to do after Poirier started dismantling his leg.
I personally feel like he was walking with a crutch and could not handle those leg kicks because his conditioning wasn't where it usually is, especially when he wasn't making hundreds of millions of dollars doing other things. Do you think this is the first time Conor McGregor's gone up against somebody with the same skill set as Dustin Poirier? And that's the part that's bothering me. He's fought people like this before.
At the end,
and done damage.
He's fought, but here's the thing.
And done exactly. And done
you spar, right?
Damage.
You spar. You can take these kicks. You can take all these kicks. But at the end of the day, you have shin pads on. This is coming from his coach exactly. He's talking about how when he came in and they felt great after the first round. This is from Conor McGregor's camp, as close as Conor McGregor you'll get besides McGregor himself. How they felt really good, but those leg kicks took a toll, and it's something that you can never prepare for. And as much as you want to, unless you out here kicking trees, you're not gonna be prepared for these leg kicks. And I just ultimately feel like you can talk about he's taken these guys, he's fought these people with these type of skill sets, but there's certain things when you get into the battle, you just cannot prepare for.